Andy, thank you very much for coming, and we're delighted to have you at the Congress. And this is a bit unusual because normally we talk about after the presentation and hear more in detail.
Yes.
So what are we expecting to hear from you on stage in the next half an hour?
So I'm going to describe a lot of what we use for building new organs, and we use decellularized hearts from porcine models to build an adult-sized, physiologically relevant heart.
Where do you think the future lies? Is it sort of building a scaffold from scratch and then populating with cells, or using discarded organs?
It can actually be a combination of the both. Our hope is to take a decellularized organ, either it be from an animal source or from the donor hearts that are just not acceptable for transplantation, and then use those to recellularize and build a human heart from that. So it could be a combination of actually using organ structures and then cellularizing them, or using human organ structures and using those.
What do you think the main challenges are in the field? And obviously using different kind of cell lines is one of the options, and obviously with any cell line there'll be a risk of malignancy or the cells not working. What do you think the challenges are at the moment?
The biggest challenge with cells is just source, how much cells we need. Currently, to build a human heart-sized heart, it's going to take us in the hundreds of billions of cells. So just learning the challenge of how to grow them and how to assess them and how to make them functional is going to be the most important challenge that we need to overcome.
I mean, the purists could argue that the heart is purely a muscle. How about more complex organs such as the liver, for example?
I would challenge you on that question. The liver is going to be, I think, something that might be a little bit easier, even though it has a complex nature to it and it does many things. The source of cells is actually much easier, and a regeneration of that might be simpler than building a heart. A heart is very complex in making sure that you have the high metabolic need that you need to produce, as well as the functional output that you have to build.
So what do you think would be the most difficult organ to build from scratch?
I'm saying the heart.
What about the pancreas?
The pancreas can be very difficult, and that's research that is ongoing, some collaborations.
Okay. A few years ago, your colleague and mentor, Doris Taylor, said within 5 years or thereabout, we will have an organ on the shelf. How realistic are we there?
It depends on the organ. So right now we're already looking at esophageal transplantations already used in humans, and so we're moving in that direction. Right now with the hearts, we'll say we can work on generating pieces of the heart. So we need valves, we need vessels, we can build cardiac patches. Those I can see could be totally into human use within the next 5 years. Building the heart's a little bit more complex, and so we hope to be in the next 10 to 15.
I was talking to Corkut Wigun from Boston not that long ago, and one of his main areas of interest is organ preservation, and he went down to -6. Do you think that your technology will be compatible? I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked him, is how close are we to developing an organ that you will build, and then he will take it over and then bank it at -6 for future use?
That's a difficult question. The most part of it is going to be just really getting up to a functional level. We can put cells into our heart, we can generate a beating. It's about making it more physiologically relevant. That's the most important part. And then moving it over so that it can be used and stored on a shelf would be the lifelong dream.
I think for me, one of the things in this Congress was not necessarily where we are, but more importantly, where we go into the future. And we had a lot of discussions about various technologies, 3D printing. Could we print 3D scaffolds?
Yes.
Artificial organs, and Shuvo came from San Francisco and showed his wonderful plans of making an artificial kidney. How do we put all this together? Because I see it as transplantologists meeting with bioengineering, with cybernetics and everything else to build the future human. Where do you see your work will fit in all this?
And that's the complex part of it. It's about bringing all the necessary people into the same room and having that discussion. Dr. Taylor's lab, for example, is made up of both engineers and biologists and clinicians, so that we all have the same relevant information to try and get this to a person in the quickest time appropriate. And then sharing that knowledge along different research areas is going to be most important.
And probably the final question for me, 30 years from now, if I were to have a transplant, what would be my best option? An old human organ, a reconditioned organ, a brand new organ that you're going to build for me, or an artificial organ?
I'm going to say an artificial organ that is built for you, because if we can do it right, we can do it with your cells, and then you don't have to worry about immunologically response from those after that.
Well, I'm glad that the future is probably closer, and I think 30 years is probably an overestimate. At the rate we're going, we'll probably be going to be there much sooner.
I hope so.
Andy, thank you very much for that, and we really look forward to your talk later on this afternoon.